Hey y'all, this is Kim with Creative Escapades. Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. Let's jump right into our video and see what we can create. Hey y'all, I'm going to be working on another tumbler today, and I've already sanded it, cleaned it, and prepped it with a coat of matte spray paint. White. Got my resin all mixed up. I'm using Faux Rizzle, and I have about 5 mils here. I'm going to do the epoxy method onto the cup, where you just rub the epoxy onto the surface of the tumbler and then add your glitter to it. And I'm using this beautiful opal color, and it's chunky. And then I took some white fine glitter and then added some alcohol ink to it to make this lime green kind of color, and then also added turquoise to some more, and then also a little bit of pigment powder in the turquoise. So the way you do the epoxy method is you go ahead and mix your epoxy up, and this is a 1-to-1 ratio. And then you pour it all onto, which is actually the bottom of the cup, but for right now it's going to be the top of our cup. And mix it up in this really handy dandy little silicone cup that I found on Amazon, and I'll put the link for that below. They came in a pack of about 20, and so reduces my footprint, I guess you'd say, for either plastic or paper cups when I'm mixing my resin. And that little silicone cup will hold up to 20 mils, so when I'm doing tumblers, it's perfect for this particular project. So you're just going to take your finger and you're going to rub this resin off of the top and push it all the way down the sides of the tumbler, all the way around, making sure that you get a really good coating. And you can always tell when you've got the tumbler coated, because wherever you don't have resin, you can actually feel it rough. You can see it, but you also can feel it. And when I do it, I also do just a little bit of heat with my heat gun, just to make sure that I have everything covered and it's nice and smooth. And so now I'm just spooning my glitter into the epoxy that's on the cup. And I'm pressing it down in there. And I'm going to be making a geode tumbler. So I'm spooning on the opal first, and that's going to be the center portion of my geode. And then once I have that, then I'll come back and go around that with the green, and then last with the turquoise. And so I just sped this up a little bit because this is just a little bit time consuming, and the end of this video is going to be much more interesting than watching me do this right here. But I'm just spooning it on there, and then I'm just taking my finger and kind of pressing it into the epoxy and making sure that it has good coverage. And then whatever is excess, and I dump it off onto my catch paper below, and I can put that back into my cup and reuse it. And if it spreads a little bit, it's quite all right, because I am going to be adding the turquoise around it, and I do want to make sure that the entire cup is coated with glitter. So now we have the lime on there, and now I'm going in with the turquoise, and I'm just going to do the same process. Going to spoon it on there and press it down into the resin, and then dump the excess off onto the catch paper. And again, I've sped up this part of the video so that you're not having to be bored, but I did want to show you how I made them meet so that each area of the cup has its own geode. Once I get all the glitter on there, I'm going to put it on the turner, and then I'm going to add a full coat of resin. And again, I'm using the Faux Rizzle, and it is a 1:1 ratio, making sure I get the cup all completely covered with the resin. And then we'll let this turn and cure for 24 hours. Don't have to turn on the turner for 24 hours, just about 5 to 6. And I have found that this Faux Rizzle is really a great resin for me for tumblers. I've tried several different brands of resin on the tumblers, and this one really does work best for me. I have less fish eyes, and it just, while it's turning, it just gives me a really good coating on there. So now I have it covered and it's cured, and I'm ready to do the spray paint. For the geode, you have to spray over the epoxy. And what I did before I sprayed it was I put pieces of tape on the inside of the cup so I would know where I had put the geode design. And I allowed the spray paint to dry, and what I want to do now is I'm going to take alcohol ink, and this is Latte, and this one right here is ginger, and I have Sepia also, that I'm going to try to do a wood grain design on top of the spray paint before I actually clean off down to show the geode. So all I'm going to do is just take the alcohol ink straight and just run a line down my cup. And then I have this brush here. It's just a cheap brush, and the bristles are kind of stiff, but that's the kind of brush you want so that you can get those brush strokes, and it will eventually make it look like a wood grain on the surface of your tumbler. It's okay if the alcohol ink runs a little bit, because you're going to use the brush and get the design going. And the more you move the ink, the more you get that wood grain look. So you can see here it ran. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to come back with another run of the alcohol ink, and it will give me the desired look that I'm after. I also put a little bit of 91% alcohol in that little white cup there, and using that also to help move the alcohol ink once it dries on my cup. And after I get this wood grain look with this brush, then I can come back with a smaller one and put in some additional details. And I did speed this part of the video up because, again, this is fun to do, but to watch me do the whole cup for 20 minutes or so probably would tune me out. But you'll get the gist of it, and you'll get to see the results of it as well. And you can see it's starting to get those looks of the wood grain, and I'm just going to keep working it, going around and around until I have the look that I'm wanting. So I've already covered the cup now with the Latte, and I'm coming back in with the ginger, and it has a little bit more of a reddish brown look to it, which is fine because it's giving me some depth and another color on there. And I'll also use the Sepia, and I get that color in there as well. So and I'm using the little cup over there with this to dip my brush in so that I can keep it damp, and it will help me push the alcohol inks. And I'm really, really liking this look that I'm getting. You can really start to see those layers and lines that are present in a wood slice. Or, I've never been one that liked paneling, but this is really cool. This is almost like having a paneled look to it. Now I'm using my smaller brush, and I'm coming back and I'm adding additional details just by running it up the colors, and it's adding those lines. And you can thin the color out, you can push it, you can make it darker, you can make little knots like what you would find like in pine wood. And this is just, I could do these all day. It's just a lot of fun creating the design and the pattern and making it look like wood. And I also did the bottom of the cup, which I will show you that. And then at the end of the video, you'll also see when I took off the colors and got down to the geode part of the cup itself, how it ran down the side of the cup and over the bottom. It's really cool. So just going to keep moving the alcohol inks around, and right here I'm going to create just a little bit of a knot by swirling my brush. Just keep swirling it round and round. I'm going to add a little bit more alcohol into my cup, and that will keep that alcohol ink, because it dries pretty quickly wherever you put it, but you can keep it moving and keep it fluid by adding the 91% alcohol to it. Acetone on paper towel to just rub gently until I get down to the geode design underneath the ink and the paint. And let me tell you about the paint. My original idea was I wanted to have each of the geodes outlined with gold. So my first layer of spray paint was metallic gold. And then I also wanted that gold to be kind of blended in with some black. So I added black on top of the gold. And then to make sure that my geode design, and I'd like to also point out, when you're pushing that alcohol ink, you want to get those little points when you push it one direction, so that it actually does have that look to it of wood grain. Gonna just touch it up in a couple of places, and I'm also keeping a check on the inside of my cup where those pieces of tape are at, so that I can not put too much detail in the areas where I'm actually going to remove the ink and the paint to get down to my geode design. So I'm only interested basically in putting the wood grain design on the areas where I'm not going to take off any of the ink or the paint underneath it. Just keep working it, and the smaller your brush, the finer the details are. Checking again to find out where my tape is at, so I make sure that I'm not putting any of the real design that I'm after where I am going to remove it. Again, going in with lines, and when I dip my brush into the alcohol, I make sure that I dab the excess off onto the paper. That way it doesn't run when I touch my cup with the brush. just want to get it just damp enough to move the ink without getting any runs on it. A little bit more right here, and using that ginger so that it has that little bit of different color element as well as the design. And I am really liking the way this is turning out. So I think it's just about ready, except for the bottom. I want to go over it again. And I'm making sure that I've got all of my areas where my tape is pretty well clear. Not spending a whole lot of time in those areas where the geode look is going to be. Going to darken this up just a little bit right here. And when I get this darkened up, then I'm going to work again on the bottom. I've already put some on the bottom, and you can see that I gave it a wood grain. It actually looks like a cut log on the bottom of the cup. And I already used the latte on there, and now I'm just coming back in with a little bit of the ginger, and I'm going to try to darken up the lines just a little bit. And then I will use alcohol to move that ginger around and give me that more of a clean tree ring look to it, so that it looks like the rings are darker, but then in between it's the lighter wood. Giving it a little knot in the center. And some of this will be removed when I go to start getting down to my geode, but the biggest portion of the bottom of the cup will still have that tree ring look to it. When you can see right here, see the rings? I love it. So what I'm going to be using to remove the alcohol ink and the paint is acetone, and I'm just going to put it on a paper towel and then just gently rub the areas where I have the tape. And I started with the alcohol to try to remove it, and the paint was too dry, so I'm using acetone to remove it, and then I'll come back in with the alcohol and then clean it all up and make sure that it's not cloudy, or and clean all the edges up. So when you first start doing this, it looks kind of rough because of working through the paint. And let me tell you about the paint, probably wouldn't have been a tough a job for me, but I had in my idea that I wanted each one of the geode areas to have like gold around the edges. So I put a layer of gold spray paint on it first, and then I also wanted the gold to be kind of have a ring around it that was a little bit darker, so I covered the gold spray paint with the black spray paint, and then of course I had to cover that with the white spray paint so I could get my wood grain look to show up. So I have 3 coats of spray paint on this, and so it's a little bit harder. And when I'm doing this, it looks like it's going to just be a smeared mess, but I promise you it is going to look so cool. This turned out better than I even dreamed. And I'm just keeping a check of where I have those pieces of tape on the inside of my cup, so I know where to clean the paint off and how far down to go. And my whole idea is, why I used the 3 different colors, is I want the that opal to be the center of my geode, and then the lime green that surrounds that. And then when I hit the areas on the cup when I'm cleaning it off where I start seeing the turquoise edge, then that's where I stop removing any of the paint. So I'm going to just speed up this video because, again, this could get tedious, you watching me do this. It's a lot of fun to see that geode come to life underneath there. And with that resin over the top of it, it has that 3D look to it. It's just amazing. And I'm still maintaining the areas of the wood grain that I don't want to remove. Just keep working it until I get all off that I want. And then I'm coming back with alcohol ink and I'm going around the edge of the paint where you can see that white and that, well, it's gray there because it's mixed with the white, but just adding that back in, and then I'll add some more designs when I get everything removed in the way I want it. I'll come back and add in some more little lines in there so that it still maintains that wood grain look. So here it is. I've removed all I'm going to take off now, and I'm adding my layer of resin over the top of this design. I am in love with this cup. It is so cool. The wood grain is just amazing. The geode part of it is so cool, and putting the resin on top, of course, is just, it's like the icing on the cake, right? So just going to torch it a little bit, make sure I don't have any bubbles, which is another thing that I really, really like about this Faux Rizzle, is that the bubble factor is not a problem. Here it is. It is finished. I love how this turned out. You can see that wood grain. You can see the geodes. It's just amazing. I am going to be doing more of these. And here is what the bottom of it looks like. Is that not cool? I love it. I think it's so neat. And it does actually look like wood. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please click like and share. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you can subscribe now. Ring that bell. You'll get notified when I upload future videos. The description of everything I use will be below in the description box. Leave me a comment. I love to hear your feedback. And I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you in my next creative escapade. Bye-bye for now.